Hi. One of the hot issues for the upcoming election is population growth and, of course, immigration. Now, this is obviously very important to property investors because our population growth has been driving the demand side of the supply and demand equation and has been one of the major factors giving our property markets the boost that is needed to keep rising. So the question we've been asked by our politicians is, do we want a big Australia or do we want sustainable population growth? Now, my answer is we need both. They're not mutually exclusive. So I'd like to explain this a bit, but before I do, I'd like to mention that this market update is being brought to you this week by our Understand What's Happening to Our Property Markets seminars that I'm conducting around Australia with finance strategist Rolf Schaefer and property tax experts Ed Chan and Ken Race. I'd like you to join us because the property markets are changing and we've got independent, unbiased advice and we're going to be bringing you perspective on what to look for, what to watch out for. So click on the links below to find out. I just want to also mention that I've just come back from a property conference in New Zealand where I was the keynote speaker and I shared the stage with a number of Americans, and after hearing first-hand stories about the state of their economy, I'm really glad I live in Australia. Now, look, by the way, I was really glad I lived in Australia before I went over there anyway. And it actually was much the same for the state of the New Zealand economy. Those in the know were saying that they wish there were more of the right type of migrants coming to New Zealand. Ones with money, ones with skill who could boost their economy. But back to Australia. I believe we must populate or perish. Just look at what happened to Japan, to America, to even Germany. Look, even our neighbours in New Zealand, as they've let their populations stop growing and age. Since World War II, Australia has accepted more than 6 million migrants, and they've come from over 200 countries. More than 40% of Australians were either born overseas or had one or both parents born overseas. We're one of the world's most diverse and successful multicultural societies. Let's be honest, we are an immigration-dependent society. Now, you'd have to be living under a rock not to know that we've had a surge of population growth over the last few years, with a baby boom plus really strong migration. But a soaring population has placed severe pressure on some of our major cities. In the past 5 years, the population of Melbourne has increased by around 370,000 people, Sydney by 290,000 people, Brisbane by close to 220,000 people, and Perth by close to 200,000 people. In fact, we were growing at a rate faster than any other developed country, and at a faster percentage rate than India. Isn't that interesting? Look, maybe we got a bit ahead of ourselves, and our population grew at around 2% per annum. However, over the past 10 years or so, the average population growth rate's been about 1.5%. Now, interestingly, I recently read that over the last 10 years, our demand for labour has been increasing at the rate of around 2.5%. Can you see where this is heading? While we've been closing the gap between dwindling labour forces and an increasing need for labour by greater participation in the workforce and extra productivity, now with unemployment at historic lows, if immigration fails to keep pace with labour demands, we're going to have acute labour shortages. This means wages are going to increase, as will inflation, and interest rates will go up. So what does that mean for you and me as property investors? I guess our markets are likely to perform well initially as everybody feels smug about their higher paid jobs. But eventually higher interest rates are going to slow down our economy and stall the property market, as they have done at the end of every other property cycle. But it gets worse. The first round of baby boomers are reaching official retirement age, and over the next 15 years, 4.5 million baby boomers are going to move into their retirement years. Now, currently these baby boomers make up a large part of our workforce. Yet many of them have had their superannuation decimated by the global financial crisis, which means they're going to have to rely on the pension. And they're going to have to become more reliant on our already full hospital and medical systems. Now remember, these baby boomers have paid their taxes all their lives, and they're now going to stop contributing to the economy, and they're going to start expecting something back from the government. I guess they expect the government to provide them in the way of aged care, healthcare, pensions. This means the government of the day is going to have two choices. Either they're going to have to cut pensions and healthcare Or they're going to have to tax the remaining workers. Those few left, they're going to tax them more to help cover the shortfall in income tax and the extra cost of these services. Now just think about it. Both of those are really political suicide, aren't they? So there's only one answer. As I said before, we're going to have to populate or perish. We're going to have to increase our levels of immigration. But rather than wait till then, and that could actually be just around the corner, I suggest our government take the emotion out of the debate and get real about population growth. There's been a lot said about the Treasury estimates of our population being 36 million by the year 2050. However, little has actually been said about the fact that this estimate's based on a consistent immigration number of 180,000 people each year. Now, anyone who's been keeping count will know that the last few years our population has grown almost double that. Both sides of politics have recently suggested we should allow population growth of about 170,000 people. This drop in population is likely to lead to all the issues I mentioned before and their serious economic consequences. Voters shouldn't be afraid of a future population increase, for Australia can survive, indeed prosper, with more people. They should be afraid of the government of the day, that the government of the day will use immigration issues to take the heat of providing better services and infrastructure. Better planning for population growth is the key. So if we need all these people, where are we going to put them? If you think about it, most of those who are going to come to Australia will be used to living in bustling, crowded cities and are likely to want to live near to their work, near to entertainment, near to the hospitals, universities, to a whole variety of amenities. Our capital cities are going to begin to look like other mature capital cities around the rest of the world. Look, we may not all have a backyard, but who actually wants to have a backyard if you can't water it? Especially when the majority of households only have one or two people living in them anyway. So this is going to mean we're going to need more medium density dwellings. At Metropole, our researchers found that 20% of the properties that are going to be required by 2030 haven't even been built yet. This increasing demand and lack of supply will create strong capital growth for medium density properties close to our CBDs, close to infrastructure, close to amenities. Yes, in the long term, property values are going to keep rising. Now you may be asking, well, what about affordability? Well, I'm suggesting there's always going to be affordable housing. Just go to regional Australia, or way out in the new suburbs. The problem is most people just don't want to live there. So in summary, we have no choice. We're heading for a bigger Australia. But we need to plan for it and ensure that we have sustainable growth, which provides our residents with infrastructure, with services and amenities, the sort that we've come to enjoy. But in the short term, these changes will affect our property markets and the type of property that we should invest in. So if you really want to understand where the property markets are going, and I guess more importantly, how to take advantage of some of those opportunities that are going to be there, and I guess avoid those suburbs where prices are falling, then please join me at the only round of public seminars I'm going to be conducting until well into next year. So click on the link below to find out all about our Understand What's Really Happening in Our Property Market seminars that I'm going to be conducting around Australia with finance strategist Rolf Schaefer and property tax experts Ed Shan and Ken Race. When you join us, you'll discover unbiased research that sophisticated investors have been using to profit in good times and in bad. The truth is, a select group of informed investors, they're smiling, they're happy, they're excited about all these mixed messages we're hearing in the news at the moment, because they know that while the majority of Australians are going to wait for the confusion to clear, those who understand what's really going on in our property market are going to do very, very well. So even if you've been to one of our seminars before, please join us, because remember, we've got no properties to sell, so we can give you unbiased information, facts. We can give you perspective that you can only get from somebody who's been in the market for, well, I've been in there for much more than 30 years. So click on the link below and find out. Now, because so much is happening in the world of property nowadays, I'm going to be keeping you updated at least 2 or 3 times a week, and usually daily in my blog. So just click on the Michael's blog link up top there, bookmark the page, and then come back each day or every couple of days to find out what's making news in property. You can also follow me on Twitter. Have a great week. I look forward to bringing you your next update in a fortnight.